Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Hope you're doing well. Today on Lemon Plays Games That He's Never Got Around to Finishing, we're going to be playing something a bit different than I'm used to. Enshrouded, an open-world survival base building game. Normally, I bounce off of open-world games, simply because they're too big or too repetitive to keep my attention. But in the interest of expanding my horizons, no pun intended, I figured it was time to give open-world games another chance. Who knows? With the right mindset, I might actually like them more than I initially thought. What the? Carl, what's this footage doing here? Cut the camera, you're spoiling it! Cut the camera! So, with that said, it's time to find out. Can you beat Enshrouded with only explosives? But while I set up my server, a few notes. First off, this video is actually sponsored by Enshrouded. So, a big thank you to them for sponsoring today's video and kicking my butt into gear to make me reconsider the open world genre as a whole. And secondly, Enshrouded just got a huge update that's bringing a lot more content to the game, which I unfortunately didn't have access to during my challenge run. I'll show off all of the cool things they've brought to the table towards the end of the video, but let me just say that a particular part of the challenge run would have been a lot easier if the update came before I started. So yeah, good news for all of you who want to play the game or watch me suffer, bad news for me because, suffering. You can use my link in the description or pinned comment down below to play Enshrouded yourself. And for a limited time, the game is on sale too, so there's no better time to play it. But enough of that. It's time to bring the Firebomb Academy to the world of Embervale. Looks like we have multiple difficulty levels to pick from. You've got Relaxed, where the combat is de-emphasized and it's easier to build bases due to higher loot rates. Default, which is the normal Enshrouded experience. Hard, which creates more enemies and makes them harder. And Survival, which slows down XP gain and adds new survival elements, like hunger. Alternatively, you can customize every single aspect of the game difficulty, changing up how the enemies work, how your stats work, how much XP you get from certain actions, and how unforgiving the world around you will be in regards to survival aspects of the game. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Customized difficulty settings are an amazing feature, and every game should have this. For the purposes of today's challenge, we'll just be playing on default difficulty, because as much as I love to play a hardcore survival character, something tells me I'm gonna die. A lot. Story time! The short and sweet version is that a long time ago, some guy in a bathrobe showed up at the king's doorstep and told him about a special concoction that he found, the elixir. This magical bathwater could cure disease, give its user increased power, and so much more. Naturally, humanity immediately abused it and began huge excavation projects to find more, digging into the earth with zero regard for safety or consequence. And consequence there was. Digging too greedily and too deep, humanity unleashed the Shroud, a fog that quickly spread across the land, changing everything it touched. And that's all we know. There's plenty of lore to discover, so we'll learn more as time goes on, but for now, it's time to wake up. Meet our character. Not quite human, we are what the NPCs of the game call a Flameborn, a desperate creation of humanity in an effort to fight back against the Shroud. Who woke us up? Why, the flame, of course. Almost spiritual in nature, this flame is within us and within the world itself. And due to the dire nature of the world's current status, the flame has decided to unleash its own weapon against the Shroud. Us. First mistake, last mistake. If you thought the Shroud was bad, just wait until you see what happens when you give me access to explosives. There won't be anything left of this place when I'm done. Oh wow, that's pretty. Right then, first quest. Start a base. Easy enough. But before we get lost, let's see what kind of menus we have here. We've got a backpack, which looks simple enough, a map, which is absolutely massive and is going to take a long time to explore, a journal page, which helps you keep track of all the quests the game is going to be throwing at us, a crafting page, which lists all of the recipes we can make without the assistance of a crafting station, our character sheet, where we can track all of our equipment and statuses, and the skill page. Oh boy, gonna be one of those games, huh? Alright, well, we'll dive into that one once we've got some skill points to use. Until then though, let's clear the tutorial. We pick up a torch, which helps light the way, and our inner flame will actually reach out to nearby lanterns and sconces, and light those as well, making it easier to see when we're exploring areas. That's a nice touch. Helps answer the age-old question of who the hell keeps the torches and candles lit in video game caves and dungeons. And then the moment when everything changed. See this tip? There's two terms here that matter. Terraforming tool and explosive powder balls. And would you look at that, a stack of 5 firebombs, just waiting for my grubby little hands to grab them. Firebombs in Enshrouded are pretty simple. Just left click, and your character will toss a bomb. This deals damage to enemies and the surrounding area alike, and depending on the hardness of the terrain and the strength of your bomb, It can remove entire chunks of the world around you, letting you terraform the land or even reveal secrets like this treasure chest here. Oh hey, a stamina ring. Nice. Lots of secrets for those willing to use their firebombs. You'll love to see it. But then, one of the more important mechanics of the game, the Shroud. Being flame-born, we can enter it for limited periods of time, as shown by the bar up top. But stay in the Shroud for too long, and you'll die instantly, so don't linger. And what kind of spooky gas would it be if it didn't also have terrible monsters inside? Once human, these shambling husks are very aggressive and will attack you on sight. And while I'm curious how well the firebombs do against enemies, we're kinda low on ammunition at the moment, so running seems like the best option for now. Daring bravery aside, we've escaped Tutorial Cave, and learned a few new recipes to boot, the all-important workbench, and the construction hammer. I also found some uncooked meat, which is definitely safe to eat, and learned the cooking minigame, where you hold the food over the fire long enough that it cooks, but not so long that it chars.
So tasty!
Let's get a few more recipes from picking up random tidbits around the map. A grappling hook! And after collecting some more resources from around the map, and getting gently mauled by a nearby wolf, I set up my first base where I imagine 99% of other players do, at the end of this conveniently dead-ended road. Communing with the flame reveals that there are more flame-born people around the map, waiting to be released from their vaults. And in order to strengthen the flame, it needs us to gather more worshippers. Sounds like a plan to me. We also have 3 new options available to us. We can upgrade the altar, which makes the building range around it larger, strengthen the flame, which makes the flame itself stronger and affects the world around me, and an option to modify any skill points I've applied. Good stuff. Naturally, I don't have the materials needed for any of these options, but hey, at least we know what to keep an eye out for. Time to get to work. I make myself an axe, and it's already dark. How the hell did that happen? Ah well, nothing like a little nighttime chopping to quiet the mind. I chop down the surrounding trees, as you do, build a basic shield to help keep my insides from becoming outsides, then make a pickaxe so I can get some resources I'll need to make an actual base. Oh, I also made a workbench, which not only expands my recipe list, but it also repairs all of my item durabilities. For free, no less. Thank God, am I right? Alright, let's see what— Glider? Death from above, here we come. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I need some stone so I can make a base. And while breaking open these rocks I'm finding all around the map certainly works, you can actually just go to town on the ground itself and get stone that way. Took me an embarrassing amount of time to figure that one out. Survival crafting isn't exactly a genre I'm familiar with. Time to build a base. Oh my God, why is that so small? Is this seriously how this works? How does anyone build anything in this game? This takes forever. Nah, there's no way. I'm doing something wrong, surely. You know what? I have an idea. Let's get some tips from an expert. I made a new character and a new world, and invited my buddy Dry into the server. Hey, what's up, buddy?
How's it going?
Dry here is very into base building, so if there's anyone who can figure it out, it's him.
This is intense.
Yeah, get ready. I hope you're
For a
excited.
building system? I'm getting excited.
I hope you're ready. I will deforest this entire planet if that's what it takes. You just tell me what you need and I will bring it to you. And so, we divvied up the work. I grinded out materials, since that's what I'm good at, and Dry immediately made a base better than anything I could have dreamed of in less than 10 minutes. With our powers combined, we learned the ins and outs of the game via jolly cooperation, playing together for several hours, most of which was spent exploring dungeons we had zero business being in at our current levels. Level 10 skeletons. No one said anything about level 10s.
Monka.
There's a lot. Run. Fucking run. Go. There's too many. What?
Horde.
Oh my God. Oh, I see it. Oh, fuck me. Oh my God.
What? Where? How?
I don't know. Fuck off. Oh, there's so many.
This is when I wish we had the firebombs.
Okay.
Still in there.
Dog!
Unbelievable.
So that was an adventure, but I learned a lot. Not only did I learn the importance of having the appropriate gear and levels before entering dungeons, but Dry taught me a lot about the base building system and how I was doing it all wrong. Go figure. I mean, look at this. We've only got basic crafting materials and the man has the base operating at a comfort level of 12. No eating off the ground for us. We've got utensils. Feeling newly inspired, I returned to the challenge run feeling invigorated. Gone is the noob who was placing each brick individually. I'm a full-fledged gamer who uses the mechanics of the game properly now. Don't get me wrong, it's still ugly as hell, but at least it'll be functional. And that's really all I need at the moment. Which brings us to our next problem. Want to know what the recipe for firebombs is? Me too! Turns out, there is no recipe for firebombs. You can't craft them, and the only way you can get more of them is by finding them as loot in the wild. But it wouldn't be a Backlogs video if I didn't break the game a little bit. Because wouldn't you know it, if you quit out of your server and then reload it, all the loot around the map respawns, including those initial 5 firebombs. Which means we can reload the map over and over again, make our way from the start of the game to Tutorial Cave, and grab 5 free firebombs approximately every minute or so. Which means it's only a matter of time before we have enough explosives to blow up a small chunk of the map. But now the big question on everyone's mind. How well do firebombs work on the local wolf population? But let me respond to your question with another question. What local wolf population? Oh hey, level up. When you level up, you gain 2 skill points to use as you see fit. Unfortunately for me though, all these initial skills don't really seem to affect explosives. So while I could put them into something just for the sake of it and remake my build later, let's just hold on to the points for now. Back to the mission. In order to find another Flameborn, we have to cross this ravine full of Shroud. And while there was a bridge, we need a grappling hook to get across it in its current state. Dang. You know, there was a small Shroud area near my base. Maybe the enemies in there dropped the metal I need to make my hook. And while we are able to kill a Shroud zombie relatively easily, it took 5 firebombs to kill it. Technically 6 because it blocked one of my bombs with its shield. That's what we call a poor return of investment. On top of that, zombies don't drop the metal I crave, which means we need to find a way down into the Shroud and cross the gap on foot. I wonder if we can just— No, oh fuck, not like this! Calculated. Lots of goodies to find in the Shroud. Nothing I'd want rolling around in my own pockets, but hey, we're gaming. And despite the overwhelming and depressing atmosphere, there isn't too much in this initial Shroud that wants to kill me. At least, so long as you hug the walls and keep very quiet. That said, we very clearly jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire, because right outside of the fog is an enemy base. Normally, the game encourages you to use stealth attacks, since they do massive damage. But look at this guy, he looks so friendly. Oops, spoke too soon. That is active aggression. What's worse is these enemies are resistant to fire damage. Guess which damage type my firebombs use? Jesus, finally. 15 firebombs later, and I've killed a single enemy. This challenge run might be a bit harder than I thought. But hey, at least he had some metal scraps on him. Only 2 more to go and we can make our hook. And while getting the 2 more scrap metal we need isn't terrible, I will say that we should probably look into making some armor. Even the scavengers that are the same level as me can take out huge chunks of my health with a single combo. As with any explosive run, the secret is to keep out of melee range and to clump as many enemies together as possible. Bake at 350 degrees for 25 minutes, let cool, and serve with a side of potatoes. I find some lore about the alchemist responsible for inventing the vessel that we are encased in all these long years, then find an anvil, which we can use to repair our gear for free, much like a workbench. Nice. Oh hey look, loot. And it's 1 firebomb. Man, thank God we found that duplication method earlier. Otherwise this run would have been nigh impossible. 1 epic battle with a basic enemy later, and we've unlocked a nearby vessel and our first NPC, the blacksmith. Bringing the blacksmith home is actually very easy. We can fast travel to any altars we've made, so getting home takes no time at all. And after creating a summoning staff with some twigs, as you do, we can use said staff to place the blacksmith anywhere in our base. Now that's the kind of escort quest I can get behind. As expected, the blacksmith not only offers me some new quests, but is also able to craft specific objects for me, as well as help me create new crafting tools like the forge and charcoal kiln. We can also upgrade our homemade tools here as well, which makes gathering that much faster, and here's all that armor I was wanting as well. There's other things here too, like weapons and decorative furniture, but we don't have any use for any of that. And with the blacksmith's help, I was able to start wearing armor that is a bit closer to actual clothes, and after the sudden realization that this object placement system is way more customizable than I originally thought, I was able to craft a charcoal kiln for all of my charcoal needs, of which I'm sure there will be many. The material crafting system is pretty straightforward. Pick your recipe, then put in your materials. You can put them in individually with the +1 or +10 buttons, or you can just jam as many as you have into the inventory and let it craft as many as possible. A little enemy grinding later, and hey, would you look at that? We finally have a full set of armor. Fun fact, the game lets you hide your armor if you like the stats and don't like the look. And you can even put pieces of armor in a costume slot if you've got them on hand. Fashion Souls at its finest. Now then, let's put that new grappling hook to good use. Ah, it's the Spider-Man variety of grappling hook, aka the best kind. You don't just have to use it as a hook shot though. It can also be used to swing like the Masked Menace himself. I smell jumping puzzles in our future. Oh, something worth noting. As we've seen before, there's lore hidden all over the world, but it's not just there for flavor. Sometimes, when you read a lore page, a marker pops up on your map. Sometimes it leads to treasure, while other times it leads to things like mines and caves. The only way to know is to read the lore and explore for yourself. One of our next tasks has us exploring the Shroud, so I decided to test the food system to see if it's worth messing with. We're not playing on a difficulty that adds the hunger system, so I doubt it's worth our... that's a lot of extra health. So yeah, cooking good. Not only is there all sorts of foods that give you buffs like extra stamina, extra health, or straight up buffs to stats like strength and dexterity, but the food buffs last for a decent amount of time. We're talking up to 30 minutes of playtime for some meals. Considering I'm used to Dark Souls' buffs lasting about 30 seconds, this was a welcome surprise. With my new doubled health bar in place, I decided to brave the Shroud a bit more and gather some of the altered plants that can be found inside the fog, which gave me the materials to do several things, like make an actual bedroom for the blacksmith, and make his forge, so we can work towards getting better armor. And you know what? Let's craft a glider too. Treat yourself. Alright, Lemon. I know years of Dark Souls have taught you otherwise, but I promise gravity can't hurt you this time. Oh yeah, now this is pod racing. Well, at least landing is easy. Oh god, wait, help! But with the glider acquired, I think it's time we did our next mission, exploring an elixir well. As to be expected, these wells are swarming with enemies, and not just your I can outrun them zombies either. These guys have actual weapons, and they will absolutely use them on you to great effect. You know, now might be a good time to talk about dying. Depending on the difficulty, dying in Enshrouded will either be a slight setback or extremely detrimental to your progress. On easy, you lose nothing. On hard, you lose everything. On our current setting though, we lose all of our hard-earned materials, which means we don't spawn naked, but we do need to make our way back to our tombstone. Punishing, but fair. In any case, after a long and grueling battle against the enemies around the elixir well, I discovered two things. First, there's occasionally a few breaths of fresh air hidden throughout the Shroud, so you can stay in it a little longer. And second, the Shroud is massive. Like, I knew it was big from looking at the map, but god dang. And the fog just makes it feel even bigger. Oh, and by the way, you see that red stuff? That entire lake of glowing, evil-looking red? Yeah, it's that color for a reason. Don't touch that, because if you do, your Shroud timer will drop dramatically. And even if you're lucky enough to get out of it with seconds to spare, your time on this plane of existence is now severely limited. Well, we've only got 60 seconds to figure out what we're supposed to do down here. Might as well make them count. Yeah, that looks about right. So, good news, bad news. The good news is that the boss down here can be hurt with firebombs. Not much, mind you, but damage is damage. The bad news is that stepping on the forbidden fruit punch diminished my Shroud time so badly that I died before I could finish the fight. But good news again, it turns out I was an idiot and didn't need to dive bomb into the fruit punch at all. There's actually an intended way down into the elixir well right behind the respawn station, which means we can get right back into the first boss of the game, the Fell Thunderbrute. Aptly named, I'd say. The fight is simple enough. Avoid getting hit, throw firebombs until the boss is dead. But you'll want to watch out for his kick, and don't get too far away, otherwise he'll send a thunderwave attack at you. Just manage your stamina and dodge his incoming attacks, and you'll be fine. And after a few lucky critical hits and 23 firebombs later, that's one boss dead, a Shroud core and Thunderbrute head acquired, and the Shroud root, which is creating the Shroud fog in this particular area, cut down at the base, which not only removes the Shroud from the area and gives me some much needed fresh air, but also gives me some skill points as well. According to the wiki, you get 1 skill point when you remove a Shroud root, and 3 skill points when you clear an elixir well. And with 7 points to spend, I think it's about time we start investigating the skill tree. First off, you'll notice my initial fears about the beginning skills not being useful to my build were unfounded, since you can actually put points into any of the surrounding pips. And second off, after a brief investigation of the tree, I found what appears to be the proper path, the Arsonist skill, which increases all fire damage by 10%. What's more, if I can find another 2 points, I can get the Pyromaniac skill, which will give me an additional 20% boost. Alright, show me that 10% boost in damage. Wait, no, that's not math. That's not math at all! So I'm not sure what's going on here, but it appears like that particular skill only applies to fire magic, not fire damage in general like it implies. Either that, or my damage is so low that it literally doesn't change. I had to double check, because I can't trust my brain anymore these days, but after comparing some footage, we've got the proof. Here's me attacking a zombie without Arsonist, doing 18 damage, and here's me hitting them with the Arsonist perk, still doing 18 damage. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. I upgraded my pick into axe in an attempt to cheer myself up, But it was at this point that I realized my initial build plan, yes, there was a plan, wasn't going to work. And neither is this god-awful house. Why did I do this? This is terrible. I think we need a soft reset. So, while I do my best to embody our mentor Dry and make an academy we can be somewhat proud of, let's talk shop. My initial plan was to go after the following skills: Arsonist and Pyromaniac, which we've already discussed, as well as Blink and Blink Attack. These two skills would have changed my dodge and would have made it so that every time I dodged into an enemy, I would trigger an explosion. The damage would scale with intelligence, so from there I would just pump into magic whenever possible and win the game. Simple. But with the new unwelcome knowledge that Arsonist and Pyromaniac do not, in fact, give me 30% more firebomb damage, and with firebomb damage being relatively weak as it is, that hand of cards is worthless to me now. So instead, let's redraw. The new plan is to focus instead on dexterity, because despite the fact that firebombs clearly scale with strength, firebombs count as ranged weapons and therefore get 5% more damage with every point in dex, which isn't much, but at least it's something. This means we'll need to scour the dexterity skills for something that might make sense to use, and I think I've got just the list. Marksman, Sharpshooter, Counter Battery, Eagle's Bane, Sniper, Shell Shock, Ricochet, Chain Reaction, and Multi-Shot Trigger. Marksman and Sharpshooter increase all ranged weapon damage by 30% when combined. Counter Battery and Eagle's Bane increase damage against flying enemies by another 30%. Sniper increases crit chance by 10%, and Shell Shock gives my explosives a 1-second stun effect. As for the last three skills, they're not for my firebombs, but they are for a weapon we'll be racing towards: explosive arrows. With Ricochet, every enemy we hit with an explosive arrow increases the damage of that arrow by 1%. Chain Reaction gives our explosive arrows a 20% chance to make a second explosion that deals 50% of the damage, and Multi-Shot Trigger makes it so that special arrows, aka explosive arrows, can trigger the Multi-Shot and Multi-Shot Spread skills, which gives you a 20% chance to spawn additional arrows and a 25% chance to spawn even more arrows respectively. There's a few other skills that will come in handy, but as far as damage output goes, that's the lot. You might be able to use Arsonist and Pyromaniac to increase the exploding arrow damage even further, but after the firebomb fiasco, I'm not about to put points into them to find out. So, with skills accounted for, let's talk about weapons. We've got several that we can work towards. The explosive powder ball net, which is just several firebombs tied together, the black powder ball, which is just a firebomb but with more damage, and the incendiary ball, which allegedly does the most damage of them all and creates a pool of flames that may or may not do additional burning damage if enemies stand in it. I say allegedly because the only wiki this game has is a bit sparse on the details when it comes to my beloved firebombs. Hell, by the time this video is done, we can probably fill out all the wiki pages ourselves. As for the arrows, there's two, creatively named Explosive Arrow 1 and Explosive Arrow 2. Explosive Arrow 1 does about as much damage as the black powder ball does, while Explosive Arrow 2 does the most damage of all the options we've talked about so far. Combine the fact that both of these arrow types will probably benefit from all those range skills that we mentioned earlier, and the damage output should be devastating. Should be. But we've got a lot more collecting to do before we can get any of that. You know how these crafting games go. So instead, let's just upgrade our flame altar, because all progress is good progress. I could also make a few new pieces of equipment. While most of the armor the blacksmith is offering is for melee characters, several pieces give a health boost, and even a health regen effect. Better than what we got now, that's for sure. And with even more health now added to my health bar, it's time for the next mission, exploring the ancient spire. There are several of these spires sprinkled across Embervale, and if you can conquer them, they'll give you a new location you can fast travel to. But in order to conquer them, you'll need to do all sorts of button pressing, grapple hook swinging, and spike floor hopping. In all honesty, it's not too bad. I'm relatively decent at platformers, and considering how rough of a time we're having with our damage output at the moment, I'll take this over combat any day. But with the tower conquered, the flames' influence spreads. We can now fast travel here at any time, which is great, because something I forgot to mention is that you can only have so many active flame altars at one time. You can't just make 40 of them and fast travel all over the place, which, you know, fair. Oh hey look, there's an elixir well right nearby. You know what we have to do. For democracy.
Steady as she goes, Headmaster. Give 'em hell.
Another perfect landing into enemy territory. They'll never see me coming. Stealth. I am the physical embodiment of stealth. And tinnitus, apparently. No big bad guarding this one, it seems, which is all the better for me. Death from above! And with a few well-placed explosives, that's another Shroud route destroyed and another round of skill points gained. Since it's not doing me any good, I decided to use the runes I've collected from enemies and salvaging weapons to remove all the dead skills from my character, then use the metal sheets I've been slowly manufacturing to make a better shield for myself as well. Much better than that old piece of door I was using. I do a little exploring, taking in the sights like this abandoned church I just so happened to stumble into, and this scavenger camp that guards the entrance to another NPC vessel. Say what you will about how the run itself is going, there's one thing that's undeniable. Enshrouded is a very pretty game. The atmosphere and lore building that the world is doing is definitely doing a great job of keeping me motivated. You know what else keeps me motivated? Unlocking the Alchemist. I also found something called a Flame Sanctum, which has the all-important sparks we need to upgrade our flame even further. With a better flame, we can... What the heck is going on out there? Excuse me, can you keep it down out here? We'll just blame Carl for that one. I do some quick patchwork, then give myself the sub-goal of building a small wall around my base. That way Carl never accidentally damages the academy again. And with that task, quote-unquote, completed, it's time to get back to the mission. We've got another NPC to save today, the Hunter, who focuses primarily on bows and ranged armor. For obvious reasons, she's a high-priority target, alongside the Alchemist we saved, since both of them are going to be my sources of damage for the remainder of the run. And, after decimating the nearby Ewok population, who are apparently well-versed in healing magic, I make my way into the ancient temple the Hunter is stored in, making sure to avoid the traps better than this guy did. And after a little lava swinging and trap dodging later, we've got the Hunter unlocked. That wasn't so bad. And would you look at that? Our weapon goal is within sight. Hey wait, I can make 2 of the ingredients for explosive arrows already. We might be closer than I thought. The Hunter's first set of armor focuses on range damage increases and extra stamina and stamina recovery. Not useful just yet, but considering the heavy costs for making armor, it's probably best that we start getting the materials now in preparation for the future. You know, now that I'm looking at it in the sunlight, I'm not sure this wall is going to keep the wolves out. It looked a lot bigger at night. But with the Hunter's drying rack unlocked, we can make dried fur for our new armor set. Or we would, if we had any salt. Luckily, the Hunter marked an abandoned salt mine on my map for me. All we gotta do is go get it. There's just one teensy tiny problem though. The mine is in the Shroud, and is densely populated with beasties of all kinds. It's fine though. With firebombs in hand, there's nothing we can't manage. Ooh, not the face! Well, that got ugly for a second there. But hey, level 5. And would you look what else I found? A forest longbow. Useless to me at the moment, but considering we're gonna want a bow of some kind when we do get around to explosive arrows, this is good to have in our back pocket. The salt itself is super easy to mine, and comes away in large quantities, which means if I spend a little extra time here and fill my pockets to the brim, I might never have to come back. Sounds like a fair trade to me. There we are, that should be enough for a bit. In an effort to get ahead, I start tar production, which can easily be crafted at my charcoal kiln, then craft a few flint arrows as well, which means that all we need for explosive arrows is some clay. I also craft myself a simple backpack, which makes it so that I can hold 8 more items on my person, then get to work on crafting my scout armor, which I now have all the ingredients for. There we are, that's all 5 pieces complete. Now we just need some explosive arrows to take advantage of my new buffs, and we're all set. My old pants and armor pieces are no longer useful to me, so I opt to remove them from my inventory permanently. But I decided to keep the fighter boots for now. You never know when you might need some health regen. And just to wrap things up neatly before moving forward, I do a little more material grinding in the Shroud, then use said materials to upgrade the flame strength to level 2. This has multiple effects. The first is that we can now place more flame altars around the map, which means more fast travel points. The second is that we've weakened the grip the Shroud has on the world, and parts of the fog that were originally too strong to even walk through are now normal enshrouded areas, which means more of the map is now available to us. And with more of the map now unlocked, we can unlock a few more NPCs to add to the academy. But since it's already on the way, I decided to assault another elixir well, using the motto of the Firebomb Academy as inspiration. Kill it! Kill it till it dies! And there you go. Another well conquered, and another horde of Shroud enemies enraged. Oh, come on now, are you really still mad at me? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're still a bit mad. Now, unfortunately, I was able to confirm that the sharpshooter and marksman skills don't affect firebomb damage, despite firebomb scaling with dexterity and being located under ranged weapons in the wiki. But that's alright. So long as we keep pushing forward, I'm sure we'll find some clay eventually. And once we have our clay, all these skills we've been taking will finally pay off. I make my way through the ancient tower that Emily Frey the farmer is hibernating in, which then unlocks a few more quests and recipes from the other NPCs at my base. Namely, better armor from the Hunter, which I have almost all the parts for. By the looks of things, the only thing left I need is linen, which the Hunter says she can make for us if we find a tool that she lost. As for the farmer, she can help us grow our own plants from the comfort of the academy, which might save us some time whenever we find rare plants out in the wild that are more effort to gather than they're worth. Later on, while investigating an obelisk for lore reasons, I actually found an uncommon pair of boots that give me stamina regen. For the time being, I can simply swap between these and the health regen boots, depending on what I need in the moment. But I can also take comfort knowing that future armor pieces will make it so that I can have both effects at the same time, which means less menuing in the middle of battle, and less time being dead because of said menuing. And with new gear now on foot, I continue my exploration and slow conquering of the map, always making sure to stop along the way whenever an elixir well or shroud route is nearby. Not every route is hidden inside a well, so sometimes they're pretty unprotected, which is great, because that's just another free skill point for me. God dang, this game is pretty. Even the Shroud is atmospheric as all get out, despite it constantly trying to kill me. Alright, the next NPC should be right about here. Oh, right. Silly me. Terraforming. Don't know how I forgot. Huh, you're a new one. Oh good, the Shroud has mages now. Fantastic. Well, that was annoying, but hey, that's another NPC unlocked. The Carpenter, who's not only good at making your house pretty, but also has some very useful inventions, like an advanced glider. As of right now, the main mission is to continue to gather lost souls, whether they be flameborn NPCs or people who've died but weren't infected by the Shroud, because apparently I can do that now, I guess. We also need to improve the flame strength again, and while I may not have any of the things needed on my person right now, I do think I have access to all of them, except the matron helmet. That sounds like boss number 2. Back at base, the NPCs continue to send me on quests to find better tools for them to use, and also send me on fetch quests to start gathering animals. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention this game has a full farming system? Yep, you can run around the world taming animals and gathering plant seeds, essentially making it so you never have to leave your base again except for a few odd materials. Sounds boring to me, but that's just because I'm not allowed to blow up the academy. Again. But enough about who blew up the dining hall, let's talk about skill points. Or rather, a piece of the skill tree that I missed completely, the Survivor subclass. This side of the skill tree has several skills that are absolutely essential to anyone playing the game, including more stamina and runtime, and a frickin' double jump. This skill changes everything. I don't care what build you're going for when you play the game yourself, you use your first 7 skill points to reach double jump and you do it ASAP. Because the double jump not only keeps you from falling into large holes and other gravity-based mistakes, but can also be used mid-combat to get out of reach of melee enemies. And if you're playing a major ranged character, that little bit of distance can mean the difference between life and death. Oh look, a man-eating flower. Sorry pal, but unless you're about to evolve and grow legs, I think that you've met your... Oh god, it's in my mouth! It's in my mouth! Well, that was unpleasant, but you know what? It was worth it, because look what I just found. Ah yeah, clay for days, baby. Pfft, fired bricks? Get that weak shit out of here. As much fun as it's been throwing handheld bombs at, and occasionally get eaten alive by, hordes of enemies, the enemies of this game are just a bit too tough for us to stick with Firebomb 101 materials. No, I think we should aim bigger. And, after finding the Hunter's hand spindle tool, it's time to do just that. This tool here is the one we need to make linen, which we can make out of flax. It's a common flower found in the woods, so thankfully it's not that hard to make. And with linen acquired, we can now also make explosive powder ball nets at the alchemist. Allegedly, its damage is only 4 points higher than a normal firebomb, despite costing 3 firebombs and 3 linen to make. God, I hope their math is wrong. Well, only one way to find out. Basic firebomb does 23 damage, while a powder ball net does 44. Wait, no, that was a critical, my bad. There it is, 29, a whopping 6 more damage. I mean, it's not like getting more firebombs or flax is hard, so I'll gladly phase out my old firebombs with these new ones, but yeesh, talk about disappointing. God help us if those explosive arrows are just as sad. I make some flint arrows at our base, add some tar and clay because that's what they teach you in Explosive Residue 206, then grab that forest longbow we got all those hours ago out of storage. Now we just need a target. Alright, scavengers, my old nemesis. 12 damage with our new and improved firebombs, and 36 when using the bow? Hold on, that might have been a fluke. Oh, it was, because that one did 55. So yeah, looks like all those skills we talked about earlier do, in fact, affect explosive arrows. And this isn't even our final form. I'm still missing several skills before we're looking at a complete build. Unfortunately, our current bow actually kinda sucks, but it's all we've got right now, so we might as well enhance it to its maximum power, which will give it a little more fire damage and a 5% better chance to crit, which isn't much, but I guess it's better than nothing. Oop, looks like I was right about that wall being too short. Don't worry, I'll get it. Jesus, Carl, what'd I tell you about blowing up the school grounds? So, let's talk bows. My current bow does some great damage in comparison to what we were working with. but it has two downsides. The first is that it takes 1 second to draw back the bowstring, which doesn't sound like much, but it's twice as long as other bows, and let me tell you notice the difference. The second problem is that this particular bow uses stamina whenever you fire it. Not an incredible amount, mind you, but when you inevitably find yourself in a losing battle, suddenly realizing you have no stamina and can't run away is a nasty surprise. Unfortunately, Enshrouded's weapon system is a bit odd, in that it doesn't let you craft any weapons outside of your basic no-nonsense prototypes. So we're kind of at the mercy of the game's loot system at the moment. But we'll talk more on that later. For now, let's unlock another ancient spire. I said it once, and I'll say it again. Get double jump as soon as you can. Having double jump trivializes puzzles and platforming. So if you're like me and prefer brute force to deliberate puzzle solving, you know what you need to do. Ooh, some archer gloves. Don't mind if I do. Hey Enshrouded, come here for a sec. No, don't back up, come here. Yeah, there you go. Get nice and close now. Are you trying to upset me? Because it's fucking working! So, with another fast travel station unlocked, the flame demands fuel for the charcoal throne, and gives me another elixir well to destroy. Say no more, Eternal Fire. I'm here to kick bubblegum and chew ass, and I'm all out of ass. Wait, my second attempt to infiltrate the well goes much smoother, and you can really see how much more effective the explosive arrows are in comparison to the hand-thrown versions. Damage aside, just the fact that I can eliminate threats from long distance is reason enough to get excited, making shroud roots and elixir wells easier than ever. And again, this isn't even my final form. The more wells I do, the more skill points I get. The more skill points I get, the faster I can do wells. I pump my new points into Sniper, increasing my critical hit chance, then make my way over to the next elixir well. Is it just me, or is anyone else having a hard time breathing? So, slight problem. It seems I need to improve the flame's strength again if we're gonna do any more well diving. Guess we need to do a few more side quests. I make some more linen and dry some more furs, use said resources to make an upgraded armor set, invade a nearby scavenger camp in an attempt to find some tools for my NPCs, then encounter the second boss, the Scavenger Gorger Matron. She's a bit shy right now, but don't let her fool you. She hits hard, and if you're unlucky enough to be within bile range, she can infect you with very hard-hitting poison that lasts for 20 seconds. So yeah, unless you've got an antidote, you might as well just accept your death now. But stay out of bile range, and she's just a slow-moving target. A slow-moving target who just so happens to take between 141 and 200 damage per explosive arrow. Needless to say, that's another boss dead and gone. And for our troubles, the matron helmet we needed to upgrade our flame. Very nice. But why stop there? If we explore the local shroud-infested catacombs nearby, we can find another bow. A bow that is actually much better than our current one, despite appearances. Because while it may not do as much base damage, it does fire arrows nearly twice as fast. And since our arrows are essentially unlimited with how easy they are to craft, more arrows downranged is always preferred. Back home, the carpenter was able to upgrade my grappling hook so that I can latch onto things from farther away and cost less stamina to use, and then he sends me out to find his friend, Mei Yin, who sells Lunar New Year items, I guess? Sure, why not? After that, I head over to the alchemist's old laboratory, where I attempt to tame a local cat, with spectacular results. Who's a good kitty? Who's a good kitty? Oh hey, petting the cat gives you a health boost. Well, that settles it. Into the bag you go. Good kitty, nice kitty, don't fight it! I also kidnapped a dog, but he was a lot easier. I just put some food in the bag and he jumped right in. Welcome to your new home, Pupperino. If you need treats, beg the blacksmith. He's the softy of our little family here. Next on the list is to infiltrate this catacomb. Oh, this looks familiar. Boy, it'd be awful if I just happened to one-shot most of the enemies in here. Fuck you, meatbag! Turns out that coming to this dungeon with appropriately leveled armor and weapons that do huge area of effect damage makes the hordes of undead almost trivial. Who knew? That said, this dungeon is still extremely long, so while we might not be getting insta-killed and overwhelmed by bones upon bones, it's still a battle of attrition. But the rewards are worth it. A legendary bow, ripe for the taking. And with as many enemies as the dungeon is throwing at me, I'm actually leveling up pretty consistently as I make my way through, which means I've almost finished one part of my endgame build. More explosive damage never hurt anyone. But at the end of it all, we find a new NPC, the Collector. My dude here is all about that necromancy, whether it's death spells, bone arrows, or summoning friendly Tonys to attack your foes. Sounds like a pacifist run waiting to happen. I hate it already. Back to the grind. I collect a bunch of copper ore, no I won't tell you why, it's a surprise. Then Indiana Jones my way through a temple, and collect my first set of cosmetic armor. Appropriately, it's the Flame Pact set. Not gonna lie, I like the look. Definitely not my final drip, but it's a step in the right direction. Infiltrating an Ewok village in the dead of night, I may have figured out that the giant arena I was standing in was a boss fight, and took the fight to them instead. Sorry for the darkness, I think my brightness was a bit too low on the recording. It's okay though. All you need to know is that this very intimidating looking shadow there is another boss, and he was absolutely zero issues whatsoever. Normally he would have had healers to back him up, but, well, let's just say I've played enough video games to know that the guy with the glowing green staff dies first. Anyway, that's another boss down. Moving right along. With the boss destroyed, we've actually unlocked another area of the map. A beautiful savanna type area with all sorts of new enemies and materials to kill and collect. Things like this aloe plant, which can be turned into some very big health potions. But with the way this build is going, I'll never need those. That's foreshadowing, by the way. Nothing a little long-range explosions can't handle. And with the enemies no longer a problem, we can unlock the next ancient spire for a fast travel to this location. You know the rhythm by now. Avoid traps, push buttons, unlock fast travel, and strengthen the flame. You know, I've been skipping past all of the side missions and lore bits in an attempt to make this video less than 1 hour long, but make no mistake, it's views like this that have me running towards every nook and cranny. I really shouldn't, considering I have limited time to play the game in a given week and a deadline to meet, but I can't really help it. The vistas are beautiful, the enemies are fun to look at and explode, and it's not every day that a game lets me force my way through obstacles with explosives, because why go all the way around a mountain when you can just go through it? That's not a metaphor, by the way. I'm literally doing that on a regular basis. I think I'm starting to understand why open world games appeal to so many people. The freedom this genre offers is pretty hard to top. I don't know, gang. Call it a hunch, but I have a feeling I might be coming back to this game again for future challenge runs. Until then, though, surprise! It's not perfect, but it's about as close as I can get to elite knight armor. At least for now. But enough of that. We've got more progress to make. Isn't that right, Pupperino? I gather up all the supplies the flame wants to level up to level 3, make my way through a bog that consists of tar and what can loosely be called fuck-off crocodiles, and after some more exploration of the forest biome, I accidentally stumble upon my least favorite part of the game. See this chest here? I was sent to find it for a quest. Quest completed, cool item got, right? Well, here's the problem. If I walk a short distance away from the chest and set up a flame altar, we can now break the game. So long as the chest is outside of the flame altar's border of influence, it will reset every time I quit to the main menu, which means I can open this chest over, and over, and over with zero consequences. And just like that, I've got a whole slew of rare items with zero effort. Now granted, most of these items won't help me in my challenge run, but they can be broken down into runes, which I use to upgrade weapons, while other pieces are actually a benefit to me, like this ring. This right here is the biggest problem I have with Enshrouded, because this can be gamed pretty hard. Chests come in multiple varieties, with gold chests dropping the rarest loot, and every chest is programmed to drop a specific level range of items. So if you happen to find a high level gold chest that's easy to access, that's it, game over. Just load and reload until you've got legendary gear and watch the game fall to its knees. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a bit more complicated than that due to the fact that a legendary weapon can actually be worse than a simple one if it has the wrong traits. But that's an easy fix. Just keep grinding out the chest until you get one that has the traits you want. What makes this worse is that we kinda have to do this if we want to play optimally. Remember when I mentioned that you can't craft weapons outside of the basic versions? That still holds true, which means that rather than encourage players to explore harder areas to get better materials to craft better weapons, players are just re-rolling chests until they get a weapon that fits their build. If I could change one thing in this game, it would be to do away with this system entirely. Make chests have specific drops, make them only drop once no matter how many server resets you do, and make it so that the players can either re-roll the affixes of their weapons with runes, or make it so that they can craft every weapon in the game with advanced materials. The game already has great lore. Lore that I haven't covered at all since I don't want to spoil it for you. Wouldn't it be better if following said lore led you to a chest that held a weapon or item that made sense, rather than a random loot drop? Now, to be fair, the latest update added a new system that's supposed to make weapons feel a bit more custom, and helps remove some of the ick that this system creates. And I'll mention that at the end of the video. But it's still a stain on what I would otherwise consider a fantastic game so far. Po Buddy's nerfed, and I'm still having loads of fun, but yeah, just wanted to get that gripe off my chest. New fast travel unlocked, by the way. For the sake of today's challenge run, I decided that I would only use items that naturally rolled in chests, rather than take advantage of the loot system. So if we get a bow that takes our build to the next level, great. And if we don't, well, it's not like we're exactly hurting for power at the moment. Moving on, I find another survivor hidden amongst the trees, Valerie the Bard. And yes, she lets you craft instruments, you can play them all, playing songs gives you a buff, and there's even multiple songs you can learn if you find the sheet music for them. More importantly though, she sells the medium backpack, which means we get another 8 inventory slots. Praise it, and praise it hard. Then, in a fit of inspiration, I pump my skill points into this pip here, which will increase backstab damage by 25%. Why? Because for some reason, every time my explosion hits an enemy in the back, it counts as backstab damage. No, I don't know why, and I don't care. All you need to know is that it does more damage now. Oh wait, look, another node that increases that damage even more. Add that to the wish list, I suppose. You know what else is on my wish list? Fancier looking armor. I don't even want the stats, I just want to look good. And this random lore quest I just found has just what I need. The Guard of the North set. The gear is hidden all around this castle, so all we need to do is collect it, and we can get that much closer to... you're not elite knight armor. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the Fell Wisp Wyvern. This bad boy has multiple moves, like this AoE blast, a summoning effect, where it calls multiple Shroud beetles into the fight to help it, and can close the gap very quickly. So make sure you have some stamina left over for those oh shit moments. Against any other build, this might have been a problem, but against my explosive arrows, he's just another, hey, where'd my arrows go? Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. Well, this just went from easy victory to desperately clinging to life in a matter of seconds. I'm officially out of health potions, and all I've got left is a few firebombs. 14 left in my pockets. Come on, man, he's so close, just let me have this. Almost there. Almost there. Oh, thank God I win. Not even close. Well, dang, didn't realize we were due for a boss fight, but I'm not gonna complain. That was a good one. And for my reward, some new armor. Aw, yeah, look at that guy. That's some Sauron shit right there. Let me just make one small adjustment. There. Perfect. What can I say? I'm a sucker for plate mail and explosions, and I've got both in high supply right now. But with my endgame look acquired, I think it's about time we push to the end. I hunt down every single well I can, becoming legend amongst the creatures of the Shroud. There is no fog where I do not dwell, no root I can't unearth. No matter how well defended or elusive each Shroud garden is, it's only a matter of time before Lemon the Flameborn descends upon you, and his arrows will blot out the sun. Who are we kidding? The Shroud denizens probably call me something much more appropriate, like Lemon the Easily Distracted. But that's alright, because with all these skill points I've been gathering, we've got 2 new abilities. This one here gives enemies a chance to spawn stamina orbs when they die, which means I can jump and dodge even more in the middle of combat. And this one here makes it so that my explosions cause enemies to stun for 1 second, at the cost of 5 mana per stun. Combine that with this new bow I found, which increases critical hit chance by 5%, increases critical hit damage by 5%, and increases backstab damage by a whopping 40%, and our powerhouse of a build just exploded off the charts. But wait, there's more! Not only is my damage against flying enemies increased by 30%, but there's another skill I overlooked, Bee Sting, an ability that makes me float slowly downward when I draw my bow in midair. If melee enemies were struggling to hit me before, they're absolutely in shambles now. At this point, the only thing that's stopping me from progressing is Deadly Shroud, which means we've got some material grinding to do. Hold please. And there you go, level 5 Flame. Easy game for babies. And with the Flame upgraded, the Deadly Shroud has been pushed back even further, which means I can now explore the next area, the Kindle Wastes. I find the boss of this area, the Fell Sickle Scythe, which, well, there you go, and finally have enough skill points to unlock my endgame skill, Multi-Shot Trigger. And what better way to celebrate by testing it out on the other boss of the area, the Fell Monstrosity. Oh hey, a skill that lets me fly even farther on my glider for the low cost of 120 mana. Sure, why not? Anything that makes getting around easier is a welcome addition to my arsenal. Ooh, that is a hefty mana cost though. If only there was some way to regain my magic so I could keep doing stun debuffs and fly further. Oh right, there is. Turns out, there's a skill that I grabbed along the way that gives me 20 mana every time I get a critical hit with a bow. What a shame. On top of that, I've also got enough materials to make the Alchemist Laboratory, which means I can now make all the resources needed for black powder. I'll give you one guess why I went out of the way to get some of that. Did you guess Explosive Arrow number 2? If so, congratulations! You just passed Intro to Explodonomics 101. Please report to Carl for your congratulatory firebomb sticker. Oh, I also went on a bit of a side quest to hunt down the best glider in the game, because gotta go fast. And with that acquired, the Flame has decided I am finally ready to head to the last area of the game, the Albanive Summits. There's several new mechanics in this area. You've got updrafts of wind that lets you glide even farther, which I love, and you've got hypothermia, which I loathe. Essentially, if you go too high into the mountains, you'll start to freeze to death. Using a torch or setting up some sort of fire will give you a little bit of warmth, which will grant you more time in the cold. But the minute you put that heat source away, hypothermia begins to set in again, and the timer doesn't reset. So it's not like you can just flick your heat source on and off. You will die. It's just a matter of time. I took to the wiki to figure out how to survive this, and all reports indicated that I need armor with frost resistance. But none of my NPCs offer armor with frost resistance, and the only way to get some is to find and tame a yak herd, which is up in the mountains, where you could die of hypothermia. Why are you like this? Why are you like this? Now you can enter some buildings where enemies have set up heat sources, or where there's natural heat vents where you can warm your weary bones. And there's even a boss guarding them. If you can even call it that at this point. Jesus, that was almost a one-shot. That gives me an idea. No, Lemon, don't. We have enough on our plate as it is. I'm not proud of it, but it took me several hours to realize the solution to my problem. The first issue I was having was that I had skipped several NPC quests in favor of beelining towards the endgame. This in turn meant that they didn't have all the recipes I needed for the endgame armors. The second issue is that I'm a complete idiot and can't read maps. See this? This is an elevation marker, which means that all of this here is a mountain range. And I've been running up this side of the mountain trying to find a way to the quest marker. What I should have done is go around and try the other side of the mountain, rather than trying to burrow my way through it and dying repeatedly to hypothermia. You know, like a sane person. And oh hey, would you look at that? A path through the mountains that reaches the yak herd without resulting in hypothermia. What a reasonable and obvious solution. Such a shame that all the yaks spontaneously exploded. Otherwise we could have tamed them. Such a weird turn of events. Wonder what happened. You know what? I bet it's this Cyclops boss's fault. I mean, look at him. The man is exploding right now. Clearly his fault. Case closed. Alright, nobody panic. The game may want me to tame a yak, but the way I see it, a tame yak can only give you wool every few minutes, and only so long as you keep them fed and happy. But a dead yak also drops wool, and all I need to do is reset my server to spawn them back in immediately. There was a slight problem with this plan due to a glitch where the yaks that dropped wool would suddenly no longer have wool on their bodies when I looted them, but then other times a yak that didn't drop wool would suddenly have wool when I looted the body. So clearly there's some disconnect between the loot preview and the loot itself happening here. Either way, the end result is the same. I got backpacks full of wool, and to balance out my karma, I tamed a single yak, then shoved it mercilessly into a sack, because that's what heroes do. Nah, only joking. He lives in luxury, like all my other pets do. But with a yak tamed and his brethren turned into beautifully tender, juicy meat, I officially have enough frost-resistant armor and yak meat to survive the cold for 20 minutes at a time, instead of just one. Hopefully that's enough. Oh look, an undead Cyclops. What a terrifying and difficult boss. I sure hope he doesn't absolutely destroy me with some Super Saiyan attack that— yeah, no, he's already dead. And with him dead and the rest of the materials from the new map gathered, we can upgrade the flame to its final level and take on the final mission of the game, slaying the corrupted beast. Our task is simple, but the navigation is not. There are several towers circling the mountain, each one with its own bonfire at its crown. Our job is to circle the mountain, lighting each of the bonfires in turn. Simple enough, really. Only one problem though. Getting to each tower isn't as easy as gliding from one tower to the next. We're gonna have to hoof it some of the way. There's 8 in total, and they're incredibly far apart from one another. I get that this is the largest mountain in the game, but this part of the map feels the most barren of the entire world, which makes the travel from tower to tower kinda boring. That's pretty cool though. I don't know. This is the end of the game. Shouldn't it be a bit more? And I don't mean the size of the map. That's too big for my tastes, actually. The only thing to really do is to fly from tower to tower and occasionally murder the rogue ice wyvern. Just feels like a missed opportunity is all. There was one cool part of this mission though. A Shroud cluster that overtook part of the mountain. This place was absolutely littered with Shroud enemies, and if I didn't have a build that absolutely demolishes everything in sight, this would have been a real challenge. Cool stuff. Wish the rest of the mountain did this. But with the last of the bonfires lit, we get an ominous message. The dragon rises, which can only mean one thing. It's time to end this. I arrive at the peak of the mountain, where a game tip and respawn point wait for me. It looks like this boss has a new mechanic. It has to be stunned with parried objects or stun arrows before it can be injured. Oh right, parries are a thing in this game, by the way. Sorry I forgot to mention that. Wasn't relevant until now. Alright, boys and girls, time for the final boss, the Fell Dragon Youngling. It seems all those dragon bones around the map that we've been marveling at have a little more life left in them, and it's our job to add another set of bones to the pile. So, final boss time. This boss is actually pretty hard, and not just because the arena is around a Shroud volcano that you can accidentally fall into. Attacking the dragon directly doesn't seem to move the needle any, so what we need to do is slap its burning rock attack back at it. This will do a little bit of damage, but more importantly, it'll do some poise damage, represented by this white bar here. Careful about where you step though. Any rocks you don't reflect will leave pools of burning shroud. And after it's done pelting you with rocks, the dragon more often than not begins to chase you with a breath attack. A breath attack that has you flipping over danger zones and getting caught in snowdrifts, slowing you down to the point where it catches you and melts your health. Blocking or outrunning the breath attack aren't an option. So as badly as I want to force my way through this fight, we're going to have to utilize our one remaining brain cell. It took several deaths, but I think I've got it figured out. We reflect the projectiles as best we can, but once the dragon raises its neck for the breath attack, we need to jump off the edge and let the updrafts around the arena keep us from falling into the burning shroud below. Do enough parries and enough poise damage, and the dragon will be stunned for a few seconds. And those few seconds are all we need to do some massive damage. But we don't have long, and once the dragon regains consciousness, he summons in an army of minions to push us back. But that's not the end. The youngling has several other moves that it can do, like a horizontal laser that cuts across the entire arena, an aerial flame attack that roasts the area in front of him, and a breath attack that doesn't do damage, but does push you out of the arena, which is a death sentence if you don't have enough stamina to float back to the platform. This fight takes a long time. Without a team of players, you can only really parry 2 rocks back each time the dragon does the attack. But you need more than 2 rocks to break its poise, and the dragon will go several cycles without doing the attack, which means more opportunities to die a burning, painful death. But then, a discovery. I'm not sure why this didn't work the first time, but explosive arrows do, in fact, do damage to the dragon. Quite a bit, actually. We don't need to use parries at all. We've got this. We've got this by the ass. Well, almost. What's worse, I've made a critical mistake. I'm fresh out of healing potions, and my bow is about to break. And because I'm a complete fool, I didn't deactivate a fire altar before coming here, which means I have no way to fast travel back. Well, that's an hour of effort wasted. BRB, screaming into a pillow. Now that we know what we're up against, let's prepare accordingly. Lots of health pots, a few extra bows in case I completely goof it and need more durability, and with 5 stones and a half hour of climbing back up the mountain, a flame altar at the edge of the boss arena for easy resets. Combine that with a food buff that increases my health, and an elixir potion that grants me 30% more damage, and we're ready for anything. Up to and including ignoring the parry system, because who needs gimmicks? And with some careful aerospace navigation, we can fly across the arena and have an unimpeded view of the dragon's back. Perfect for that 50% extra backstab damage. It's still a tense battle, with tight dodge timing and resource management, and there was a time or two where I got overzealous and nearly biffed the entire attempt. But with an IV drip full of health potions keeping me alive, and years of playing Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the N64 finally coming in handy, it's only a matter of time before the dragon joins its brethren. You fought the good fight. Now return to the earth from whence you came. And with one final arrow, we've done it. Enshrouded, beaten with only explosives. That was an experience. It's been a hot minute since I've played an open world survival crafting game from start to finish. I think the last one I actually completed was Don't Starve? Or maybe it was The Forest. But now that I've done it, there's a part of me that wants to do it again. And I don't just mean I want to play more of this genre in the future. I mean right now. There's just something about those little dopamine rushes of knowing that every action you take is pushing you ever closer towards your next upgrade, your next boss, your next biome, your next lore drop. And when it's done right, man do those claws dig in deep. But it's fine, it's not like playing an open world survival crafting game takes a long time or any... Oh no. Well, I guess if I disappear for several weeks at a time, you know what happened to me. Don't bother looking for me. I'll come back when I'm ready. In the meantime though, an update for Enshrouded just dropped. Let's see what kind of new toys they added to the game, yeah? It appears this update was based around the nighttime gameplay. There's all new enemies, which can give you curses or diseases, and enemies now patrol areas they normally wouldn't be found during the day. There's new materials that can only be found at night, and some visual and terrain changes to shrouded areas, which have gotten quite the visual upgrade. They also added over 100 new points of interest to the map. You've got night temples, which can only be opened when the sun goes down, shroud layers, which are heavily patrolled and have new ingredients called essence, and shroud forges, which let you upgrade weapons with a new material, gems. Custom weapons, away! There's also some new grenades called critter and confusion grenades. This pleases me. And because Fashion Souls is very important, you can now tint your armor at coloring stations, and there's a new NPC barber who can change your look on the fly. And yes, they added some new hairstyles and dye colors, so if you've already got a character, you should probably give it a quick look. There's some new quality of life improvements too in the menu system, like labels that tell you how difficult the quest will be. Boy, that would have been nice. Oh look, they also added a repair kit. No comment. The wound is still too fresh. Oh wait, there's more. Backpacks carry more, they improve the magic system so that spells travel faster, some wands now shoot multiple projectiles, bosses have more loot to drop, now you can crawl into narrow spaces if you crouch, they added new lore weapons, they fixed some enemy AI, and so many more updates that there's literally 11 pages of notes, god damn! Whew. But that's enough of that. In case I haven't managed to get the point across, I really like Enshrouded. It's a great open world game, very fun to play, and is headed in some fantastic directions. There's a few rough edges still, and I hope my video has given the devs some feedback in that regard, but I had a great time all the same, and am actively fighting off the urge to immediately start another playthrough. One life only sounds like a good time. Ooh, or pacifist only. One shots only? Ugh, sorry, I forgot how to sleep again. My brain just does this sometimes. A big thank you again to Enshrouded for sponsoring today's video. If you want to play the game yourself, click the link in the description or pinned comment down below and let them know I sent you. And it's even on sale for a limited time to celebrate the new update. But in any case, that's all I've got. Take care of yourselves, be good to one another, and I'll see you all again soon.